Jungkook carries something that a corporation cannot engineer: a natural aura of balance between humility and greatness. He works as though he's still chasing something, even when he's already reached the peak. That tension between confidence and hunger gives him a creative energy that no executive structure can design. HYBE can train, scout, and package talent, but they can't replicate that internal fire. It's the difference between building a brand and building a legacy. Even in the years after BTS expanded into solo activities, the company's direction became visibly centered around maintaining cultural dominance. Yet, despite all the resources and technology HYBE has invested into newer artists, none have recreated what Jungkook naturally carries: the rare synthesis of perfectionism, vulnerability, and connection. His performances feel almost algorithmic in precision, yet deeply human in emotion. When Jungkook sings, there is something both effortless and exhausting in the way he gives everything. He doesn't perform to impress, he performs to prove that art still has a soul. That is the part HYBE cannot reproduce. What makes Jungkook's presence even more irreplaceable is the quiet discipline behind it. There is a misconception that charisma is something spontaneous, that it just appears. But in Jungkook's case, charisma is built on consistency. He has never once taken shortcuts in his career. Every live performance, every vocal line, every movement on stage has been a product of deliberate discipline. The audience feels it. They feel the authenticity that can only come from someone who actually earned every inch of his fame. And once the world experiences authenticity in such raw form, no manufactured replacement can satisfy it. HYBE may continue to expand globally, signing Western producers, launching new idol groups, merging with agencies, and investing in new markets, but no amount of innovation can disguise what's missing when Jungkook isn't at the center: genuine emotional gravity. He pulls attention without asking for it. When he walks into a room, he resets the atmosphere. When he releases a song, it becomes the standard by which others are judged. That kind of natural dominance cannot be bought or built. It is lived. To the public, Jungkook might appear as an artist. To HYBE, however, he is infrastructure. His name alone sustains brand credibility across markets. His face, his sound, and his creative integrity give the company a cultural weight that marketing alone cannot achieve. HYBE's image as a global powerhouse exists largely because Jungkook made global success look effortless. Without him, the narrative loses coherence, the story feels unfinished. And that's what makes him irreplaceable. HYBE can discover another great vocalist, another visual center, another performer with remarkable discipline. But Jungkook's artistry is not defined by skill alone. It's defined by the weight of everything he's been through publicly and privately, and how he transforms it into art that still feels universal. That kind of emotional translation is rare. When Jungkook sings about longing, fans in New York, Seoul, or Jakarta all understand it the same way. He speaks the global language of sincerity, which is something corporate systems can't teach. There's also a psychological layer to why HYBE can't replace him. For over a decade, Jungkook has shaped what fans expect from the company's artists, not only in terms of quality, but in moral and emotional tone. His humility, even at the height of fame, created an expectation that HYBE artists should not only be talented, but also grounded. That expectation is both a blessing and a trap for the company. Because once a figure like Jungkook defines your public identity, you can't simply manufacture another without it feeling artificial. Fans can sense the difference between a symbol that's earned and one that's assigned. The deeper irony is that HYBE helped Jungkook grow, But Jungkook now defines HYBE's own limitations. He outgrew the boundaries of a label without ever rebelling against it. He didn't leave, he transcended. That's more dangerous for a company than defiance. A rebellious artist can be replaced, rebranded, or dismissed. But an artist who becomes the moral and emotional benchmark of your company's legacy, that artist owns a piece of your identity. Every move Jungkook makes still reverberates across HYBE's ecosystem. His collaborations, his endorsements, his fashion appearances, even his silences, they all carry weight. He doesn't need to speak for people to know what he means. The moment he chooses to appear at an airport, a fashion show, or an event, media narratives shift. Social media algorithms tilt in his favor. HYBE might promote new groups with millions in advertising, but one Jungkook sighting does more for global engagement than any campaign. That's not replaceable influence, that's instinctive magnetism. When Jungkook released 7, the global reaction reminded the industry that, even outside the BTS framework, he operates as a force of his own. HYBE saw that too. It wasn't just another solo project, it was a demonstration that Jungkook doesn't need the label's infrastructure to create cultural impact. Instead, the label needs him to stay relevant in a market that moves faster than business models can adapt. 7 became a proof of independence, wrapped inside commercial success. HYBE might distribute his music, but Jungkook carries the meaning. And that's the silent fear inside any major label, when the artist becomes larger than the company. Jungkook has crossed that threshold. His name no longer needs HYBE's validation. HYBE needs his. In every major campaign, from Calvin Klein to global events, the company's association with Jungkook isn't an act of promotion, it's survival. As long as Jungkook remains within their narrative, HYBE can still claim to represent the pinnacle of global K-pop. But once he steps beyond it, the label becomes just another corporation chasing after its former glory. There's a deeper emotional truth to why Jungkook can't be replaced: trust. Fans trust Jungkook in a way they don't trust corporations. They've watched him grow from a teenage trainee into a global star, without losing the purity of his intent. He never manipulated his image, never exaggerated his struggles for sympathy, never turned his art into a commodity. Every success he achieved came from visible effort. That transparency has created a form of emotional ownership. Fans don't just admire him, they believe him. HYBE can replicate the aesthetic, the visuals, the choreography, the production quality, but not the belief. You can't manufacture belief. It's earned through years of sincerity and silence, through decisions made when no one's watching. That's why any attempt to replace Jungkook will always feel hollow. The public knows the difference between a performer and a phenomenon. Jungkook is the latter. If you look at how global markets respond to him, it's not just about fandom numbers, it's about consistency of impact. Every campaign he touches, every performance he gives, transforms into a cultural reference point. The industry watches him to measure where pop is heading next. Even Western artists acknowledge his presence without rivalry because they see in him the rare combination of global adaptability and local authenticity. For HYBE, that's a paradox. They can't contain him, but they can't afford to lose him. And perhaps that's the most striking truth of all. Jungkook doesn't belong to HYBE anymore. He belongs to history. The company can build empires, but Jungkook has already built something more powerful: belief, emotion, and cultural continuity. His voice has become part of people's memories. His name triggers something visceral, something that no amount of marketing can imitate. Once an artist reaches that level, the corporate parent becomes secondary. HYBE's challenge now is not how to replace him, but how to sustain relevance around him without suffocating his individuality. Because if they try to control or duplicate his image, they'll destroy the authenticity that made him untouchable in the first place. The only way forward is to accept that Jungkook is not a product, he is a phenomenon that happened through HYBE, not because of HYBE, and phenomena can't be owned. The reason HYBE can't replace Jungkook is simple yet profound. He made people feel something real in an industry designed to simulate emotion. He made global audiences believe in sincerity again. That's not something you can rebuild, it's something you protect. And no matter what happens, no matter how far the industry evolves or how powerful HYBE becomes, that truth will remain unchanged. Jungkook isn't just part of their story, he is their story. HYBE's current strategy revolves around expansion. New groups, Western collaborations, global subsidiaries. Yet every step they take is unconsciously measured against Jungkook's presence. When they launch a new act, people inevitably ask, will they ever reach Jungkook's level? When they announce new projects, fans wonder, how does this compare to what Jungkook did? His shadow looms over everything, not because the company depends on him intentionally, but because the market does. His name sets the standard for success. That dominance is not something HYBE can recreate, because it wasn't planned. Jungkook's rise wasn't an algorithm, it was organic evolution. His voice, stage presence, and artistry matured in front of the world. Fans saw him struggle, improve, and transcend. That process, the authenticity of witnessing a human become extraordinary, is what brands like HYBE desperately try to bottle but never truly can. They can copy aesthetics, not essence. Even when Jungkook stepped into global solo territory, HYBE's role became almost secondary. The label distributed and promoted, but Jungkook himself carried the entire emotional momentum. The industry noticed it too. His solo projects did not feel like label creations, they felt like artistic declarations. 7. Standing Next to You and 3D weren't just hits, they were cultural checkpoints. They redefined what a Korean soloist could accomplish on a global scale. Jungkook turned international music into familiar territory. And every time he did, HYBE's brand value quietly rose, not because of corporate strategy, but because of Jungkook's unstoppable presence. This is where the irreplaceability becomes undeniable. Companies can replace functions, they can replace visuals, they can even replace voices, but they cannot replace meaning. And Jungkook, more than anyone in HYBE's history, is meaning. He gives their empire a moral center, an emotional legitimacy that can't be engineered. When people see him, they don't see marketing, they see belief. In an industry full of noise, that clarity is priceless. Even investors and analysts who study HYBE from a financial standpoint recognize the Jungkook effect. When his solo promotions, brand deals, or appearances happen, social metrics and engagement spikes are immediate. It's measurable. But what can't be measured is the intangible aura that surrounds him, that quiet credibility that turns audiences into loyalists. It's the same phenomenon that allows him to dominate conversations even when he's inactive. His silence carries more gravity than most artists' comebacks. That's a level of cultural command that no company can create, only protect. HYBE's leadership understands this, and that's precisely why their strategies always orbit his image, even when it's not obvious. Every global collaboration, every partnership, every new project subtly traces back to the cultural authority Jungkook represents. He is the anchor of authenticity in a system constantly chasing reinvention. The paradox? The more HYBE tries to move beyond him, the more the world reminds them that they can't. But why can't they simply develop another superstar? The answer lies in timing and truth. Jungkook arrived at the perfect intersection of vulnerability and ambition. He came from humble beginnings, grew up under the public eye, and yet maintained a sense of innocence that never felt performative. His story unfolded as the world's digital revolution peaked. Fans weren't just watching, they were participating in his journey. That emotional interactivity, that feeling of growing together, is something the industry can never recreate artificially. It's a once-in-a-generation phenomenon. HYBE's newer artists, no matter how talented, operate in a post-Jungkook era. The rules have changed. The audience no longer wants perfection, they want presence. They want the kind of emotional realism Jungkook introduced to mainstream pop. And when they don't feel it, they move on. This is why no successor, no matter how skilled, can fill the same space. Because Jungkook didn't just entertain, he educated the audience on what genuine artistry feels like. Once the audience learns that, they can't unlearn it.